Hey, Fletch here, working on a 1948 Smith & Wesson Revolver. This thing is in pretty rough shape, as you can see. Very rusted, very gooked up. We're going to start by taking off the grips. Remove that screw and pop them out. Next thing we're going to do is start taking off these screws. I'm going to speed this up here. It's pretty easy to see how to take these screws out. One thing about working on any gun, make sure your screwdriver fits the slots. Man, we get some tough calls to work on guns that have been stripped out or the head's totally bangered up. So if your screwdriver is tight inside the slot, that's fine. Just keep adequate pressure. And if you can't get it out with that screwdriver, I'm using a hockey puck to tap on the plate, and even the plate doesn't come off the frame. This usually knocks it right off. It's kind of weird. Don't really want to pry on anything, but sometimes you just gotta pry stuff off because it's so rusted. All right, there's me taking off the hammer stop, and taking out from the yoke the crane. This is a tension screw off the mainspring. You want to make sure that you take that off. A lot of people don't really want to mess with it because they don't want to mess with the quote-unquote harmonics of the gun. That's just crazy. Go ahead and take it off so you can remove the mainspring there. Pull back on the bolt there, and then you can take the hammer out. Do a little bit of finagling with this thing. It's really stuck on there really good. It shouldn't be that difficult to come off, but it's an interesting concept where things should really easily come out, and then people bring you a bag of rust and tell you like, oh man, I clean it pretty regular. And yeah, not so much. So just kind of work with it. It should come up pretty easy. I like to squeeze the trigger to kind of take pressure off of it. So double action sear right there, just making sure it has spring tension on it is good. Now I'm removing the thumb piece. This is the real surprise right here on this gun. I took out the bolt, and almost always I get the bolt plunger there and the spring goes shooting into my hand. I'm almost used to it now, and I took it out and it didn't even come out of the bolt. I was kind of like, what in the world? I thought I discovered a new type of gun. Alright, so this is my technique of taking out the rebound slide and spring. I kind of use a punch. I push on the spring and then I slide the whole mechanism up, or the whole slide up. I'll show you further on the video how to put that back on. It's pretty easy. Me taking right there the hand off of the trigger. That hand actuates the cylinder and moves it. Now I'm going to take off the cylinder stop. Pretty easy to get a cylinder stop off, but again, this is a really gooked up gun. I find myself it's kind of sticking everywhere I put it, so I kind of trying to get the plunger and spring out now, but some models have this cylinder stop screw in the back. I can't even get this. Just to let you know how gooked up this is. It won't come out, so I have to get a dental tool and pull out the plunger and spring. Alright, so totally disassembled, good to go get coated and sandblasted. Here I am, all the parts are back. This is, I think, a day later. I'm just greasing up all the springs. When you're putting a gun back together, I recommend putting, if you can, all gun grease on all the springs. Springs are one of those things that are constantly under tension, even when they're not. When you put a spring idle, it should protrude past the part that it's supposed to putting pressure on. So never are they sitting idle. So they're always under tension. It's good to have them greased up. Don't over grease them so they're just sitting in and gook. That attracts dirt and stuff, but get a little coat of grease on there helps. This bolt and plunger and spring is a perfect example. When I took it out, it wasn't even pushing back. So here is me trying to get this back in. All right, I want to give a shout out to my unofficial sponsor, Rip It, the war drink that's been keeping combat veterans overstimulated and underhydrated since they can legally get away with it. It's my favorite battlefield drink. I drink it in all my tours to Afghanistan. It is not good for you. I'm pretty sure it's made out of tiger urine, but I love it. It's straight up ghost process. All right, here's my technique. I just set the trigger in the hand right after I put in the bolt here. All right, I'm gonna show you how I do this. A lot of people fight with these and they end up torquing the crap out of that strut. This is a technique. It puts all the pressure where it's supposed to be. I use the right size punch. I think this is an 1/8" punch. You pressure on it, keep your finger on it, and you can just slide it right over the strut. And there you go. It is sped up a little bit, so you can slow it down and watch it if you want, but I sped it up just because there's no reason for it to be super slow process of putting a gun back together. Alright, now I'm working with the hammer. I'm putting the double action sear back in. I took it out because I wanted it cleaned, and I wanted to Cerakote the hammer, or the customer wanted to Cerakote the hammer, and there goes the pin flying in my face. Let's try the other way. That's one of the irritating things about working on some of these tiny little parts. When they don't want to go, they'll fight you. You get a little tappy tap with nylon part of the hammer there. Alright, I skipped a lot of this part. I struggled getting the hammer back in. Even though I pre-fit all the struts to make sure they fit, it's just a process. And I put the thumb piece back onto the bolt just because it kept popping out. Just nothing really you can do about that, trying to work it. So there it goes, sliding in place. It's just not the right place there, so I'm putting the thumb piece back on. So it looks kind of like menacing when you take a revolver apart, but if you understand how triggers and sears actuate on each other and everything needs to be under some sort of tension and reset, they all work together. So if you're careful when you look at parts and how they relate to each other. Alright, so here's the thing about putting a mainspring back on a revolver. Put it onto your to the hammer first, and then put it into its housing, and then attach the tension screw. I've seen a lot of weird bending and pressure on guns that it's really not necessary. So just, it's meant to go that way. Work the hammer first, and then tighten up the spring. Here's the hammer block. Fits in there nicely, and put the plate on. And we're gonna skip forward so you guys can see the unveiling of this clean, brand new gun. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.